It's now time for us to get into the newsroom, and as mentioned earlier, we are going to be looking at content production and independent content production for that matter. And joining me in the studio this morning, I have none other than Sheila Monyiga, who is the MD for Embesha Kenya. Also, Sheila lives out loud. I think you're on what episode now? What
We're going into season 6.
Season 6. Yay. Okay, we'll get into that, and good to have you. We also have Alex Chemwada, who's the founder of Charms Media. Welcome aboard and daring to be local this time. We know you from Daring Abroad.
Thank you, Gitonga.
Yes, karibuni sana. Now, independent content providers, of course, that is a space that has been made very broad and has grown in the last few years, especially because of the digital era. Previously, one would have expected that content mainly would be on mainstream media for it to be credible, for it to be viewed, but that has changed. Sheila, you also have something in common in that you've both been on mainstream media before, but decided to venture out and go on to your own. Tell me what brought that change.
Well, Michael, this is a running joke, and I say it every time I meet people who are still working in the media. You know, when like you start, and I'll tell you too, and probably not right now, but in a future conversation, people always, you know, when you get into mainstream media, it's a wonderful career. It's got wonderful opportunities. You grow in ways you don't even imagine. And you begin to get into a way of living where you don't imagine yourself not doing what you're doing. And when that job ends, the joke for me now is to tell people there's life outside of this particular thing that you've been doing. There's life outside of this group that you've been working for. But you've got to bring your talent, your skill, and everything that that media house has taught you into your next phase. And the digital space, Michael, it's the great equalizer. There's no difference between you and a whole entire station that's paying for licenses, that's paying for frequencies, that's paying for equipment. All you need even is just your cell phone, and you can talk to the world. You can still tell those stories that you were telling in the most authentic and honest way.
Alex, do you agree that with the digital space, it's basically made us all equal in terms, I mean, previously for you to become a media or content provider, you needed either a platform or to own a media house?
Yeah, it's true. Along the same breath, I mean, you can publish yourself. Anybody can publish themselves. I mean, you have a big crew here. Viewers are seeing you alone, but the crew behind you can take videos, pictures, and publish things. People can even write while they're still in college. I like the question you ask, Sheila, how did it begin? For me, yes, I've worked with mainstream media like her. I've worked with KBC. That's where I began interning. Then I got my first job at Citizen when they began. I was actually the first reporter of Citizen TV and radio back in 1999. But you see, then from there I worked for KTN up to 2008, went back to Citizen from 2008 and resigned in 2014 early to go out and venture for myself. And as she said, there is a time you feel you need your space. I can't continue being in an outfit in a newsroom, and you want others to come and grow. I can't sit in the newsroom and continue doing a 2-minute clip, sitting in a press conference, and then I deliver only 2 minutes of a story. I can do better. And at that time, I felt it would be better when I'm outside and look at things differently, go negotiate for time on a channel so that I have my time and I'm able to independently go out, use my networks. Because once you're experienced, and Sheila said, begin from somewhere. I wouldn't just tell anyone, quit and go be like Chemwada. No. Once you have that experience, you have the networks, then you can stand on your own. And those opportunities are there. There are many. They are immense. We can't all fit in a newsroom. And when you grow, you are growing others. They are coming, taking your space, and you are going out mentoring people. Because of the period, I left alone. I began working from my dining table with only my phone. I had no camera, only my phone. But now I have 20 people working with me at Charms Media.
Wow. Yeah. And what gave you that shift? What is it that, did you feel constrained within the newsroom to a point where you felt that I am, maybe there was a different way of rephrasing it, but you felt I'm too big for this space?
In a sense, yes. What do I mean? Because for me, my motto was to grow horizontally. I'm not one who wanted to grow vertically. In fact, many times bosses would ask, can you become the editor of this? Yes, I'd reached that level of maybe political editor, at some point features editor, but not managing editor, and then you grow, you become MD, vertically. No, mine was horizontal. And you look at international channels, Richard Quest, Christiana Manpu, they are motivated and empowered to grow horizontally, and that is beneficial to the station. So in my view, on Kenyan television, room for growing horizontally is a bit limited because of space. Most channels have been current affairs is only during news at prime time. But you see, KTN is introducing something new where current affairs is 24 hours. So it's because of that lack of space, and I just wanted to have my own. Not that I'm feeling newsroom is a bad place, no. But of course, you can see I'm working in partnership with the KTN, that I'm able to produce content, and KTN is the broadcaster.
All right, Sheila, is it the same for you? Did you feel like you were restricted and now you have a bigger space where you can live out loud?
Well, I was working for the Nation Media Group. I'd worked on radio for many years. I'd worked also as a programs controller and got Easy FM to #1 English station across Kenya for not just 1 year, but years and years. I'm sure you all remember Easy FM, blues and R&B.
Yes,
but,
absolutely.
it got to a point where I'd locked down being on air. The next challenge was I've already run a station. So unless like what he's just talking about, the vertical progression. So after you've done this, then the understanding is next you're going to run the entire station as a GM. And that opportunity, when it presented itself in the wrong time. And within a week of being given that offer, I was promoted to glory, which was a different kind of glory. The job ended. And so I was out here thinking, I still love to talk to people. I've still got great networks. What is it that I had always wanted to do on radio that I couldn't do? When I was hosting the TV show in the morning on Nation, what did I want to do with it that I wasn't able to do then? And I thought, I like to talk to people. I like to help people connect the dots. I always thought of myself as a bridge that helps people connect from one side to the other. And in finding people, I remember meeting one woman at a petrol station, and she was, for me, the catalyst that let me know that this idea that I had was the right thing to do. She was the mother of a little girl, 8 years old, and she was hawking her books on poetry. The girl used to write poetry. And she says, Sheila, every day I take my girl to school, and I want you to interview her because I think you will unlock something in our lives if you tell her story. And I told her, but I don't have a show, I'm no longer on air. And she said, you'll figure it out. And that's just how God works. Next thing you know, I decided to do this recording, invite about 8 different people who I believe have great stories. And I found Mama Natalie and Natalie herself, and we sat down and then we uploaded the story. That was about 2 years ago. She got sponsorships. I think she's in a private school, maybe at the International School of Kenya now. She's met the president of Kenya. She's met the first lady. In fact, she told me when I caught up with her about a year and a half later, and she said, Sheila, when we sat with the first lady, she said, one day maybe I'm going to live out loud with Sheila because that's how I came to know about you, Natalie.
Wow.
So had I not started that channel, then I would have stood in the way for this little girl to move on to the next. And it's in no way saying that I'm the one with the talent. No, I'm just the bridge to let you know that she exists. And
it was just a platform that you used and gave an opportunity. And I guess we have different ways we get there. Alex, how did you come up with the concepts that you have? For instance, Daring Abroad.
Yes.
I don't know what season you're on right now, but it's definitely one that looks very simple. I'm sure it's very difficult to do once it's done, but very interesting to watch when you see what Kenyans are doing elsewhere, and very motivating as well to think that Kenyans actually live here and go do quite huge things out there. But how did you come up with those ideas, and how did you come up with a concept and put it together?
Okay, first let me say TV production is very expensive, is it? I mean, I think it's more expensive than if, say, you are just doing blogging or digital TV, print, because it takes time to produce and you must be there. People must see it, people must believe it. Daring Abroad is a concept that I had in mind for 6 years way back before I went back on air with it. I had it in mind when I was still in the mainstream media. What I used to do, if you remember, whenever I went somewhere for the so-called docket or known stories like Hague or US elections, I would meet Kenyans. I would meet, and then I see their stories. So I want to tell their stories. But again, as I told you, find it may not be easy to do it in a mainstream media. Maybe because of time constraint, you go to the US and you're told you should be back in a week. That camera is needed. There is no DMO.
And you're also there for a different assignment.
Assignment, and you're under pressure. So you keep those ideas in mind. One of the initial shows that did the most watched on YouTube, that is Kathurima, the cattle farmer in Botswana. I had that idea in mind 6 months before I went to film. So it's something that was in me, and I was raring to go. So when I quit Citizen and formed Champs Media, that was it. So when I approached KTN and they said, yeah, we are beginning a 24-hour channel, bring that concept here. So Daring Abroad was my first show, independent show to run here. What happens is, and then I've been tapping into networks. To excel outside there as an independent content creator, you need to be believable. You need to be trusted. You need networks. For example, you may send a crew with all the money, the budget. They sleep in the best hotel. They have the best transport. They'll come back with one story. But you send someone even with little resources, you find that person has come back with 10 stories. Everyone wants you. People are inviting you into their lives. You know, when you go abroad, some even invite me into their homes to tell their stories. No one will just invite you, isn't it, Sheila? So you need to be believable. People believe in what you are doing. Is it for a good cause? And we chose it as a feel-good story. We are not going to investigate people, what they are not doing. You know, then if I go that route, the way I would do it if I'm not a reporter in a newsroom. My concept, I say it is inspiring. This is what I want to do. So it's been quite inspiring, and you've seen sponsors coming on board. If you allow, I mean, in partnership with KTN, of course, that's a good thing. So KTN providing the platform for airing and I producing, and we have an arrangement where there are certain partners who come in to support if you allow. For example, Kenya Airways has come in handy to provide travel assistance, and then you find then sponsors like Equity Bank, EcoBank has come on board because they believe in it and they have products they want to sell using that platform.
Okay, and of course the key thing that you've said there is being believable.
Yes.
Sheila, you are on 2 platforms, if I may call that, and maybe even more. You've got Rembesha Kenya and you've also got Sheila Lives Out Loud. Let's talk about Rembesha Kenya, because that's a little bit different from TV. It's more of print.
Yes, it's actually a digital and print hair and beauty and lifestyle magazine. And when we started two years ago, my goodness, it's going to be 3 years soon, we already knew that we are going to go online because the rest of the world is really, print is being phased out in many different ways and forms. But I thought, you know, if we're going to talk to people in the beauty industry, in the hair industry, in the wellness industry, you've got to see this thing to believe it. Because when you tell people, but it's online, that's nice and good. It begins to sound like one of those fun things. And you know, you're talking to people in business, you're talking to people who are investing lots of money into creating products, and they've got to see that you're also walking the talk. And so we kicked off with this hair and beauty magazine. We distribute it in select pharmacies, beauty stores, hair shops as well, the salons and spas across the city of Nairobi. We moved into Mombasa but have scaled back again because we're now concentrating more on what we're going to do with our online platforms, because the digital side of Rembesha has grown exponentially. We've got a community of about 175,000 people who are consuming content on a daily basis. And the business about it was just simply telling salon and spa owners, you know, you shouldn't have to go and poach staff. If you've taken somebody from some salon for 5,000 bob extra, they're 5,000 bob extra away from leaving you as well. So how about you work on your service? How about we teach you about marketing? Let's tell the world about what's good about what you do.
So what would you say is different from what you're providing? Because I'm sure there are very many hair and beauty products and magazines and content out there. What is it that you'd say was your distinct difference that made you get that following that you have now?
Because we're online. We're speaking and communicating on the medium that the world is talking to. If you look at the costs of print, they're very high. And there's certain magazines that will be produced month on month, and you'll find them in every beauty shop and you'll find them in every salon. But as a salon owner, if you decide that you're going to advertise your product in there, you can't afford it. It's just simply too expensive. Yet it's a product that you consume, but it's out of the way for you to go and market your services. And so we said, what Rembesha is going to do is give you a subsidized way of telling the world about you and what you can do. And at the same time, we're going to tap into the new platform that the world is using to market, to communicate, to inform, and to push your business.
Okay. Alex, you talked about believability. Do you think, and I'm sure there's a huge advantage by virtue of the fact you had the experience from the previous media houses that you've mentioned that you worked for, but does that mean those who've not got that experience possibly cannot venture into the same industry that you're in, or the same space?
Not necessarily. It could be an added advantage, but people have different abilities. You have people right out from the college, they already have something. For example, what I tell the people who come to work with me is, what are you bringing on the table? What's your skill? So you find a creative person, a young lady or a young man, even just observing Champs Media website and saying, no, you could have done it this way, we could do clips this way, come up with a concept. So you find from college, the person managing my digital media has not even graduated, because he started looking for me every time on Facebook. I can do, so he came up with a concept on how to help. So there are three actually, one on social media, another one website, another one told me I can redo your website, so that they brought in something and they were not coming for a job. And they showed that they have networks. There's one who is able to write and go look for stories, a writer, you see, and has never worked in a mainstream media. So it doesn't mean that you need that experience first. You can come straight from college. Some, you'll be surprised, have never stepped into journalism class. I have a presenter who's never been to a journalism class, and it's allowed when you have talent, that person, bring that person on board, and then help that person to go now get the training, get a diploma and formalize. So it's possible you can make it without necessarily being in a newsroom setup. And it's all about just looking out, being creative, looking out for things, and showing that you can do it without necessarily being in an employment outfit.
All right, now, Sheila, you guys make it sound like it's so easy, like literally right now I could write my resignation letter right here and, walk out, but I'm sure it's not that easy. What are some of the challenges and possibly pitfalls that you may not have seen that you now would use to advise others who would want to get into that space?
Yeah, dear diary, letter to myself 3 years ago, before it all began. Well, I think the first thing is you've got to be willing to try. Number one, before a lot of people are waiting for the perfect time, or maybe when this happens, or when I have this, then this is here, and then I have a cameraman, and then. Sometimes those and thens are never going to happen in the time that you want them to. So start with what you have. What's in your hands? Who are your networks? Who are the people who you know can support you and help you bring something to life? Start with that one concept. Start with that one print issue and look at it and say, wow, I think I like this, but maybe next month we can change this. And then be willing to keep adjusting. If there's one thing I've learned about, and it's, I think, the truth about business, no matter what field you'll find yourself in, you're not carved in stone. Whatever you're trying to create, it's a fluid idea. It's living and breathing. It's not a stone image that comes out like this and always has to look like this. It's constantly changing, and it's also looking at the market and looking at what the market is telling you. Be quick to adopt, be quick to change, but be even quicker to try. The one challenge that, of course, will always be an issue, and he's mentioned it, is cost. It's not cheap. In as much as we can say, you've cut your costs and you're working from your dining room and you've got your phone and you're filming yourself and things, inevitably there's certain things that are going to cost you money. And you just have to believe in what you're doing enough to know that I'm growing this as a business, and eventually it's going to pay back. If you're secure, if you're sure, if you're steady and consistent about churning out good work, something opens up. And when we talk about about something. You've talked about Kenya Airways. A partnership is going to come through. I'm now going into season 6. Season 5 for me was sponsored by the Waterfront Karen, an amazing destination that said, you know what, we look at what you're doing and we look at the underlying theme. You're about living, you're about loving your life, you're about growing, and that's what we also as the Waterfront Karen agree and believe in. We're about lifestyle, we're about health, we're about the environment, we're about positivity and growing, and we agree with you. And so that was a very easy alignment for us. And they've come back again for season 6, which obviously means there's something good that's resonating between both our brands. But this wouldn't have happened if after season 1, because after season 1 I wanted to go to Mombasa and not come back, maybe look for a sponsor and find an easier life. I hear this is how it works. But after season 1, it was about saying, okay, we've learned 1, 2, 3, 4. Can we fix this? Can we build on this? Jump into season 2. Still no partnership, still nothing. Keep building, keep refining. Season 3, season 4, and then finally a door opened in season 5. And I'm really grateful to the Waterfront.
All right, Alex,
the challenges.
The challenges, and also how to formalize, because when we talk about content provision, there are people who are providing content and they don't even know they're doing it. You know, you just go on your Instagram and, you know, there you are just talking, rambling about, that still is
That's
content.
still content,
Then
yes,
there are people who are watching. I mean, as long as you still have, you know, those views coming in, that is content. But sometimes we don't know how to formalize it. But start with the challenges that you faced.
Okay, formalize and monetize.
Yes.
So that you can make money from your skill.
Exactly.
I'm making money from my skill. She's making money from her skill. And it's normal. People see me and they see Chamada, the reporter. You see, reporter of KTN. They don't know I'm a CEO. I'm a founder of Champs Media. And CEO means I have a lot of responsibility. Much as you are seeing me globe-trotting, I'm managing a company. In other words, I must make sure we've paid tax. Is rent paid? Are my people paid? So you can imagine, it's not just that karipota, let me use that slang, karipota, daring abroad and easy. It's not easy. While I'm on location in Seattle, it's rent paid back home. My people paid, you know, it's everything in order. There are bills, there are overhead costs, and there can be so many. You can never have enough resources. You may find there are jobs coming and you don't have enough cameras. So it's a company and I'm running. So that can be a challenge because you must manage it well. If you don't manage the company well, it will collapse because it's not just that daring abroad. If you don't pay tax, you are likely even go into credibility issues. It's who you are. So if you don't do certain things well and spill out into the public, then your company will collapse. And let me now, you said you won't just quit your job. It's true. People see Chamada daring abroad, then the Chamada report. That's just a bit of Champs Media. So we're able to sustain because I have other things I do. I'm a communication consultant. I've done work with UN Habitat, and again, as I said, your networks. So the other things you do that now support you. It's not just because if you depend on just that people are seeing on air, Champs Media would not be there. And the other people in the company have certain skills, certain things they do. They go out, you find someone has been able to produce something, that person has earned the company money, so it's not just Chamada and daring abroad bringing the company money. I have guys in Champs Media who go moderating, emceeing, and they are paid, and it's income. So you package yourself, but you must have a niche. Let people know what you are doing, and you are not just all over and trying everything here and there. And content, anybody can create content. You see, we are talking about content that goes on any media like digital or mainstream, but you can sit down with an organization and create content for them in-house. It could be about environment, and you're able to give them maybe videos that may never air, but you've created content. That's still content creation. Content creation can happen in a church. Content creation can happen even in a college. There are people in colleges who are coming with concepts and being able to create content. It may not necessarily be published, but it's still content. So there is more we do. Yes, it's challenging. And the other thing is, for example, my area, I would say, is relatively doable in the sense that I'd go for inspirational stories. And by there, I went for those, Sheila, because I was feeling weighed down by sensation in newsroom. You know what makes news? You know,
Exactly. It's not about
yes,
that.
yeah. So
There's
when I go
another
to bed,
story.
I'm feeling that story, and I'm watching myself, and it's a story. But
And
daring
there's so
abroad.
many other positive stories
Yeah.
happening out
Many,
there that
yes,
you
yes.
don't
that need
have
to
time.
be
Yeah, and of
told.
course they rarely get space in the mainstream media. But once I negotiated for my space on KTN, I'm able to do it my style, and I like the freedom KTN has given us. They trust that my content is good. So it's inspiring, I feel good, and it's uniting. With Daring Abroad, you'll not attack me, this is from where. But the challenge is, like I would use the example of Namu. If you're out and you are doing content, like his area of investigative journalism can be quite challenging because investigative content takes longer to produce. Daring Abroad, I can go
It's also more sensitive.
yeah,
more
I can, sensitive. I can film 2 episodes in a day if I'm organized. But Namu may take 6 months to produce one show. So it's more expensive. People may not be willing to be interviewed by him. While I land in London and everyone wants to have a share of Chamada, sincerely speaking, Namu, it's not in bad faith, but someone may be, what is he doing? And
Where is
that's,
this story going
They're really
to end up?
suspicious.
You're suspicious. Can I invite him in my house?
But
does
that is
mean?
not to say that if somebody is interested in that content,
They will
if
do it.
that's
They
their
should
niche,
do it.
That's their
they
niche.
still
You see,
can do
it's
that.
Like, it's like we say being a police officer is bad, but aren't there police officers? Even just anchoring has challenges. There are occupational hazards in every career.
goes with the
So
job.
Namu took that job, and he has his following.
And he has a
People
passion
believe
for
in
it.
his content, and he maybe has his ways of sustaining and making sure he's able to do it. And while doing content outside there, you can look for a grant. It may not even go on air what you are doing, but I'll give you an example. Like I did Nairobi River series. But there was no any funding or whatever coming in. But I had a lot of support in terms of resources from Aga Khan University, Kenyatta University, the experts. So you sit with them, they help you. They even have some material. They may have filmed some photos. You see that nobody is paying me, but it's resource that is helping me do the content.
Right,
All right,
right.
Sheila, monetizing, because let's take an example of Sheila Lives Out Loud. You sit there with, these inspirational stories and go on YouTube, but at the end of the day, you have rent to pay, you have food to eat, and again, you also need to upgrade. You can start, like you said, with your phone, but you can't stay there if at all you to be taken seriously. How do you monetize?
In terms of monetizing, it's something that doesn't happen from the get-go, because a lot of clients, I remember our first year as Rembesha, in fact, the first 6 months, you go over to clients and you'll tell them, I'm doing this and here it is and it looks like this and it's wonderful, and everybody says, yes, it's really good, but let's talk after a year. This year we're going into the elections, let's see. And the expression one woman said was, if you're still here next year,
then
call
we can
me.
talk.
Because again, people also want to see, where are you going with this? You've just come from something which we understand, and you're going into something that you're telling us about. You're this fearless leader who's seeing a new future and a new vision, and why am I going to buy into it? It's a good song that you're singing, but let me see if you're still singing it. Exactly, because this is money, and it takes a lot of work and strength and energy to go and make your coins. And so after a year, you begin to prove your consistency. Your product begins to shine. In terms of the people who you're dealing and doing, the people you give the opportunities to, as a result of being on your platform, suddenly other things start happening. I've told you about Natalie, but I'll tell you about a woman's business. Immediately after she was on my show, suddenly she was being interviewed by CNN as an African businesswoman. Suddenly she's winning awards. Suddenly her brand is growing beyond belief, but it all starts with a conversation on my little channel. So that goes to show you that there's ways you can monetize, but first it started with being consistent and being able to produce good content. As a result of her story, we were able to start saying to other clients, this is what we can do for your business. This is the kind of awareness we can raise for you, for your brand, for your service, whatever it is that you need. And you'll find that in any given season now, we have at least 3 or 4 sponsored shows from within the body of the inspirational stories and everything else. There'll be a few people who come in and say, one of these shows in this season, I want it to be about my brand. I want it to be about myself. I want it to be about me. And what happens after that is other channels, other traditional media platforms will pick up their stories, will highlight their businesses, and they move on to pushing more product, to pushing more business and doing better. But it all starts with what have you got on the table? How are you polishing it? How are you making it better? And how are you opening yourself up and positioning yourself for potential partnerships that are sponsorship? People usually say YouTube and money. I've not gotten a check from YouTube. I don't know if I'm going to get a check on YouTube. But what I do know for sure is I'm not going to sit waiting for that to happen. But my content is most definitely happening.
All right, we need to wind up in just a bit. Alex, are you satisfied? I know you're on mainstream media by virtue of the fact that you air on KTN News and KTN Home. But are you satisfied with the digital space that is there now? And do you see in the future, like there's a huge front that is, horizon that is opening up for the digital front?
Yeah, the space is there and it's widening. For example, I know people who have content on DSTV. The platforms have. I just came back from Botswana, and I met a Kenyan, an ingenious Kenyan young man. He's in his 20s. He's begun a content production outfit, and he's gotten space on DSTV. If you go to his TV, I mean, his content airs on DSTV, and he has, I think, 3 programs now. So he's just looked for partners to help him invest, buy the equipment, and he's on air. So it doesn't have to be KTN or Citizen. For Charms Media, first, I'm quite satisfied, yes. And, you know, KTN has given me the space to grow and the visibility. But according to my contract, I'm not limited. I can diversify. What I'm limited on is the shows that I present, the Chamada Report and Daring Abroad. But I can have another show presented by someone else, by Champs Media, and it's on NTV or KTN or Citizen. So there is the space is out there. But again, as I said, and then it depends on what you want to do and what you want to be. You can, even being in a college, begin something and you find you're able to air on any digital platform that may be available. It could be even in the US. So you find your niche. You may target US market and you're able to reach that audience while you are in Kenya. Not so technical in terms of now explaining the space in terms of the digital outfits that may be there. But that's just an example that you can publish from anywhere and still reach a niche market the way you want.
All right, Sheila, we'll need to wind up. Your closing remarks, and just to anybody out there who feels they have content but don't know where to start, what did you tell them?
Start with your Insta stories. That's always fun. And I always see you when I start. And that's okay. But the thing is, people are doing all kinds of things. There are people who are talking about makeup, there are people talking about shoes. You can talk about anything and everything. But you've got to be very clear about that thing that drives you. Because I think we're living in a place and age where you can tell the real and the fake. And there are far too many people who are taking on things that are not them. They're taking on, no, this is not you. So be very clear about the passion, about your driver, because it's not going to be easy. It may take you 5 years to get a breakthrough. It might take you even 10 years before you start that channel, before you start posting things and saying, this is what I'm going to do. Ask yourself, in 10 years' time, are you still going to be doing this on a bigger, better level? Or in 10 years' time, will you have different ideas and ideals for yourself that have got nothing to do with this channel? Because it's going to take your time, it's going to take your energy, it's going to take your resources. What does that mean in 10 years' time? Be very clear about your content, be very consistent about your posting or your uploading, and sure enough, be open to those partnerships because they will come.
They will come.
Yeah.
Alex, your closing remarks very briefly.
Very briefly, when you see Chamada is not working in a newsroom, in other words, what I mean, anybody with talent, and it may not be a journalist, can create content. You may be a lawyer working somewhere, but you come up with something and you're still on air. But of course, you have to go within what the profession, the ethics, and so on. You just have to learn. So you don't have to say, I must be a journalist to do ABCD. You may be a doctor, but you're coming, like, I mean, Mercy Correll in future could have her own outfit, just churning out health-related content. So you don't have to be a journalist per se, but you can create content and live on it, make money on it. We don't have to all be limited.